First of all, I just want to thank everybody for coming. Today's event is brought to you by my not-for-profit, which is the Free Thinker Institute. And really, we're trying to help all of our members be the best version of themselves. And I'm going to put a quick slide up to sort of tell you a little bit more about the organization. We want to create like a warm, open-minded community of people who can kind of help each other grow personally and professionally. And our overall goals are to increase happiness, decrease harm, which hopefully sounds reasonably agreeable, and make enough, help everybody get the skills that they need to make enough money that money no longer buys happiness. This is a very long-term goal, probably not within my lifetime, but I'm hoping to start a snowball so that someday the world achieves that. And then we really want to enable transformational personal and professional growth. And part of that is like we have what are called the 5 intentions, one of which are things that I think people would benefit from intending to do, one of which is practicing our critical thinking skills, and that's what we're talking about today. We're going to use the news as a way of sort of practicing our critical thinking skills and really developing them is the hope. And so I'm going to talk a little bit about, I do have kind of a semi-plan for today's session. It's going to be very collaborative and a working session. And so I'm going to expect everybody to do a little bit of work and dig up their, roll up their sleeves. This is going to be very interactive and hands-on. So I'm going to start off with kind of a preamble of like what critical thinking skills are. This is kind of the Wikipedia definition, which is analysis of facts to form a judgment. And there are different sort of methodologies that they talk about. I sort of look at critical thinking skills as like creating models for the world to predict future possibilities and discerning fact from fiction. So in order to discern fact from fiction, part of what we have to do is evaluate things and decide how much credibility they have. And that's really what today's session is going to be about. We're going to brainstorm a topic that's in the news. I have one in mind that I'll throw out there, but we'll brainstorm all together, like different topics that are interesting, and we can vote on them and see whichever one has the most votes. We'll choose that topic. As long as it's got writing in right-wing media, left-wing media, and centrist media, we're good to go. And so that's really the only prerequisite, is it's got to be significant enough that it's being written about by a left source, a right source, and we're going to choose a source on the left that's about as far to the left as the one on the right. Hopefully sort of the middle ground of both of those sides, so that we're not taking the total extremes. And what we're going to do is we're going to, after picking a subject, this is kind of our steps, is we're going to choose articles, and we'll break into 3 groups where we'll choose articles from the left, the right, and the center. We're going to use this methodology called the media bias chart, which, for those not familiar with it, it basically charts out the media bias of different media sources, like how right-wing biased they are, how factual they are, etc. And so we're going to choose sort of the middle of the ground here on the left, the middle of the ground on the right. Doesn't have to be exact, but then somewhere pretty centrist for the centrist article. And then what we're going to do is tease out the salient facts mentioned in each of the articles in our sort of subgroups. And then what I'd like to do is get people that are, if people are open to sharing like their political alignment, you don't have to, but if you're willing to share it, I'd like to try to get groups so that the people reading the media on the right include people that are, believers in or sort of aligned with right-wing ideology as well as left-wing ideology as well as centrist. So that way we get a pretty balanced, balanced set of people reading like all 3 of these sources. And so that's kind of the next thing is basically to say, like, if any of these facts are suspicious or seem like they may have a political bias, which that's part of why we want to have a team that is politically diverse. And we would want to fact check them and see if we can find objective sources that are not politically biased, especially if that fact does have a political bias. We want to, let me see if I can see what's causing that. There's a little bit of a stutter or something. So we want to see if there's anything that is any objective source that can validate that that fact or that purported fact, and whether or not it is objectively like verifiable by a non-biased source. And basically, in doing so, we're going to kind of fact check the articles that we read and see whether or not some of the things that they claim are facts may not be facts. Then we're going to basically take the superset of facts, put them together, and then kind of create our own, logical conclusions. We'll also look at the conclusions that the individual articles made, and probably we'll do breakout sessions for, right, left, and center. I think that would make the most sense. And I will look for volunteers in each of the other groups that I'm not in to help moderate that. So that said, we want to take the superset of facts and then kind of come to our own conclusion about what the right sort of conclusions are from the superset of facts, and try to get a clear version of what is really going on. Because the one thing I can say is that having done this myself on my own, like, I think right, left, and center, none of them give a full picture of the truth. And so only by looking, in my opinion, at right, left, and center, looking at what all of them say, can we actually get and hone in on, what's really going on. At least that's been my experience. Brian, I'm just going to mute you because you've got some background noise going on. So any questions before we get started? All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put, let me put a topic. So we're going to put topics here, and I'd love to have everybody brainstorm topics. And so I'm going to put this in the chat. And by the way, if anyone, Hussein, you have your hand up. If anyone has questions, feel free to just unmute and talk, because I may not, I'm not the best multitasker. I'm actually really bad at it, to be honest. And so I may not notice the hand, but I did notice yours, Hussein.
All right, Garrett, thank you so much for taking the time to do this presentation today. My question is as follows. Could you please take the time to offer your definition of fact? Or in other words, what constitutes fact? Thank you.
Sure. So by fact, I mean something that is a part of objective reality, like truth. So for example, if you take three philosophers standing in front of a door, two of them might say the door doesn't exist. But if they all try to walk through it, they would all suddenly realize the door actually exists. The door is a fact. If a majority does not make truth, right? So whether or not something is discernible by experimentation, that's what I would consider a fact. Is if you can run experiments and come to the conclusion that something is true, that's a fact. And we can go to the SEP or dictionary definition if that's not clear enough.
Would it be like fair to say, this may satisfy the way he questioned it, and everything that we think is a fact until it's proven otherwise by empirical evidence?
Yeah, I think empirical evidence is the way that we come up with what is a fact, right? And so we would want to have a trustworthy source telling us something is a fact. So when we're reading the news, we're sort of trusting in, some level of authority that, we're not going to actually check whether or not there are troops on the border of the Ukraine, right? But if if sources on the right, the left, and the center all say that there are troops on the border of Ukraine, that's probably a fact, right? Whereas if only, either the right or the left says it, and no objective source will say that, and having troops on the border of the Ukraine is actually in the favor of the source that says that there are troops on the border of the Ukraine, then we can kind of surmise that that may not be reality. That might be a politically motivated claim that is not backed by empirical evidence.
Exactly. But I think the other point, not sure you covered it, is more that I think a lot of people, when they hear the word fact, they think it's a thing that cannot change, which is not the definition of fact at all, right? Is that nobody's claiming that the fact is an eternal fact. It is just fact based on what we know today. It can change if you can bring some credible evidence to the contrary. But as you know, until that happens, this is the fact for today. So nobody's claiming the fact. I just want to make that clear, right? Nobody's claiming the fact is forever. I think a lot of time when people argue on the straw man, they'll say, well, this could change later. It's like, well, then show me the thing that can change it. But until that happens, this is the fact for today.
Fair. So our assumption is going to be it is a fact at the moment in time at which it was observed. So not that it is an eternal fact, right? There might be pyramids in Giza. That doesn't mean those pyramids will always be there forever. They've been there a long time, but someday those pyramids may be gone. And that doesn't mean that it's not a fact that there are pyramids in Giza.
We also
Go ahead.
we also talk in terms of probabilities, because many things are not black and white. Could we say we're interested in those things that are most likely or have the highest probability of being correct or whatever?
Yeah.
Hey, Garrett. Hey, this is Ocean. How you doing, man?
Good. How are you, Ocean?
Good. Glad to be here. I really enjoyed the last session, by the way. But anyway, so instead of spending too much time in abstract argument, can we get to the actual example, and we can actually collectively examine the actual example from an article, whether left or right here?
Anyone opposed to that? I'm game. So I think we have a good definition of fact as high likelihood of being observable through empirical evidence, and ideally from validated by a non-biased source, right? So
Yeah, but I have to say one thing.
Yeah.
But in some situations, some personal situations, objective fact almost means nothing. And I personally know a lady whose husband is alcoholic and physically and emotionally abusive, and all the friends kept telling her that she needs to get out of the relationship. But in her naive mind, her husband is just an angel who has a little trouble that she can fix in the near future. And so objective fact is he's an a-hole and a very abusive, is a complete loser. But in her mind, he's a pure, angel from God. He just has a little trouble, which she thinks she can manage to fix it in the near future. So the fact in this case, fact almost means nothing, right?
So there are facts related to that situation. Let's not get into them. There are facts related to it, is the things he says and does, the ways that he treats her, if he's hit her, those are facts. Whether or not his intentions are good or not can be discerned from a series of facts, but that's not the situation we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about something in the news. So let's focus on that, because it's a lot more, it's a lot less ambiguous when you talk about like a major event in the news, and there are more like, hopefully we can find this is going to be controversial, right? We know as soon as you have right, left, and center, it's going to be controversial. And so I really want to encourage everyone to remember the only rule in the Free Thinker Institute is that we remain polite. And this is the first time we're delving into anything political. And so I want to do it sort of cautiously and carefully. And so I think it is good to have definitions. But I don't want to belabor the point if we at least can have good enough. I like the saying perfect is the enemy of good enough. And I agree with Chris, it is important to define the term. And I think we've defined it, and I've written.
I think we did it.
Yeah. High likelihood of being observable through empirical evidence, ideally validated by a non-biased source, right? So if there are a lot of troops on the border of the Ukraine, probably it's not like only like right or left-wing media will be the only one that has, that information. There should be some source that's not politically biased that should know whether or not that's true and be able to validate or refute it. And so, we want to look for this kind of definition of a fact. And again, it's, we don't want to get too philosophical or about like whether or not any fact could ever exist, whether or not we can know anything with 100% certainty. Let's just assume we're only shooting for high likelihood of being true. So that said, let's go to the list of topics. I added the Ukraine-Russia conflict because that's top of mind. I'd love for people to add other topics in. Add your name as well if you want to vote on which topic we go after, and then put a 1 next to the ones that you want to vote for. And then what I'll do is I'll create an automatic counter of all the votes. Anyone going to help me out here? We're 1 and 1. I'm sure other people have ideas of things that they want to talk about. Not everyone wants the Ukraine conflict.
I would say that how to attract, as a policy for a country, how to retain and attract the most productive portion of its population. So I don't know, I phrase that very well. So for example, right now, like Argentina this year, I think lost 10% of its population by immigration. And most of the people who immigrated are between the age of like 18 and 35 and in the top percentiles in terms of educations, right? So these are the people you don't want to lose. So, so in our environment, current environment, like people always thinking about when they immigrate is the poorest and the most resourceless people who immigrate. Actually, the people who immigrate are the top percentile of each country's population. So the question really is, what do we do to 1, attract these people from other countries, and 2, to retain the people that we have?
So how to attract and retain the best talent?
Yeah, that sounds so business-like, but yes, that's what it is.
Sorry,
Yeah.
I've been
Or
20
the
years
people
in
with the
industry,
most
so
productivity.
yeah, I'm all business. What can I say? I've been turned into a corporate drone. I'm trying to recover as an entrepreneur, but I am a slightly half corporate Borg drone. So I don't know whether or not we're going to be able to find articles on the right, the left, and the center about that, but we'll add it as a list. And if it wins the prize, we're going to have to try. And if we can't manage, we'll go to the next highest answer.
All abortion should be banned.
Okay, should abortion be banned?
There'll be a bunch of articles on that.
But
That's
isn't that that seems like, I mean, there are facts on both sides of that issue, but it almost seems like a belief thing rather than like the Ukraine-Russia thing seems a lot more like you're going to find.
But let's not narrow yet. Let's wait and see what the code is like. Let's just brainstorm. And so I'll just sort of mention in the brainstorming phase, let's not shoot ideas down. Let's just throw everything up there. And that's why, like, even attract, retain best talent, I'm skeptical as to whether or not we'll find articles about that, but we probably could. Like, I don't know, but like, let's just brainstorm everything we can think of, because if it doesn't end up winning the vote, it doesn't matter anyway. So like, and what we'll do is if we can't like succeed at whatever our highest one is, then we'll just move to the next one.
Can I suggest the cause of the recent downturn in the stock market?
Great. Any others?
Is there genocide in China?
What was that?
Is there genocide in China?
Yep, that's a good one.
COVID deniers.
Wait, when you say COVID deniers, do we want to say like, is it better to take or not take the vaccine? Is that a fair enough like proxy, or
Works for me.
something else?
It works for me.
Have one.
I have a topic to suggest how a regular person can check using critical thinking if science is calling truth or lying. based on a topic like vaccines or global warming, how regular person can understand is it truth or not by using critical thinking skills.
You're asking, so you're asking how could a person understand fact from fiction if they're not an expert on the topic? Is that right?
Something like this, as a lot of biases, rumors, and lying from top scientists now. So how to make sure or at last have a basic understanding, is it truth or not?
Okay. And if anyone wants to go into the spreadsheet, you should have access now. If it's not letting you access, let me know. Michael says it's not. I'm a little
It's not
surprised by
still
that.
for me either.
So, oh, you know what?
Can you add one subject, one of the topics?
Anyone with the link, that's what I need. So try again. Sorry about that. Let me try.
Working now.
I'm not used to using my business account. I used my business account for this so that it would be on a Google shared drive instead of a regular Google Drive, which, yeah, is
But
what
it worked.
cool. So yeah, feel free to jump in, add your name, vote for the ones that you like. Whoops, I meant to vote for these.
I've had my
So we
hand
should
raised.
just we should just
Wow.
vote once.
sorry,
We should just
go ahead
vote
and
once,
speak.
right? Or we can vote like
The person,
twice.
that's not the person who said he's had his hand up for a while. You can just vote once on each thing. Just vote yes or no for each thing, whether or not you want it or don't want it. Go ahead.
Right, I want to be clear about what we're doing here. So these are, okay, so these are a bunch of general issues, and then we'll together pick one from this list and then pick one of these issues or topics. And then once that issue is picked, then we look for different articles from different perspectives on that topic. Is that the idea?
Yes, Peter, I'm guessing you weren't here from the beginning. So we're gonna, just to quickly summarize. Yeah, we're gonna.
Yeah, I was here, but yeah,
Okay.
it's
Sorry
just,
if-
it
sorry
wasn't
if
written down
you
anywhere.
Yeah, no, I may not have been clear. So apologies if I wasn't. So yeah, we're gonna brainstorm topics. We're gonna vote on which topic everyone wants the most, whatever topic it is. We're gonna break into teams. And so we'll go to the teams tab and then we'll, people will write down their names. So like I put my name, I put my email, you don't have to. And then I put my political position. I'm pretty center aligned. And then, I'll have a fact check. Please don't use the, I probably shouldn't have put the whiteboard on. So please don't use the whiteboard.
That was my fault.
Okay.
Crap.
If you can delete that, it would be great.
My screen. Yeah, I'm gonna do it. My screen is kind of clear.
There we go. Great. I should have it up so that because I had a troll use the whiteboard last time, so it just made me nervous. So drawing penises on the whiteboard. So thanks for the troll for that. So yeah, feel free to just add topics in. Like I'm all about what I call many tasking. I came up with the term many tasking a number of years ago, which is many people working on one task as opposed to multitasking, which is one person working on many tasks. And I think many tasking is very effective. Multitasking, everyone is terrible at. Ocean and then Alexander. You guys have your hands up. I don't know if it was intentionally.
Oh.
No, I don't. My hand is not raised, so
Okay.
forget about it.
No problem. It is raised, Ocean, if you want to. Yeah, perfect. Thanks so much. Just so that I can try to pay attention to it, although I'm not good at it. So guys, don't feel like you have to raise your hand. Just feel free to speak up. I'm all about letting everyone sort of have a voice. And so if no one's talking, or even if I'm talking, like feel free to talk over me. I have no problem with that. If someone else is talking, just let them finish their thought, as long as they're not talking for a really long time. If they are talking for a really long time, then I might talk over them, and you might as well. So people are doing a great job filling these out. And so remember to keep adding your votes for the new ones that get added.
So we are not being able to add a new subject now. We're just voting now.
Yeah, you
Get
can
it?
still add new subjects. Yeah.
I added twice and it went, it deleted automatically.
If something is dark gray, you can't add there because that means someone already has their mouse in that cell. And so you don't want to go into one that's dark gray. If it's not dark gray, double click on it. It'll turn dark gray for everybody else, and then everyone else will know not to go in it. But if two people are in a cell at the same time, the second one overwrites the first one. And then let's give it one more minute for adding topics. So if you have any other topics, add them in the next minute. And when it's 7:33, well, 7:34 on my screen, because it just turned 7:33, we'll stop taking new topics, and then we'll let everybody vote in the next minute after that.
While people are voting, I think Zoom have a feature to organize votes with multi-choice or single choice.
It does. I'm not going to use it. I think it's less efficient than doing it in Google Sheets.
Okay.
If it's better at it, I don't know how to use it that well, so I'm going to be worse at it. So blame me if you think that it's better. It's my fault. I'm very good at Google Sheets, and I'm not nearly as good at Zoom polls as I am at Google Sheets. So I'm going to stick with what I'm good at. And I feel like I'm in a Bloomberg terminal with all the lights coming up. It's pretty cool. So you guys are doing an awesome job. So far it's like better to take the vaccine or not, and the Ukraine-Russia conflict. And so let's give one more minute until 7:35 for people to vote, and let's stop adding choices so that everyone can choose a vote. Maybe 7:36 for people to vote so that everyone can read all the votes. I don't think we're gonna have time to do two, but I'm very open to doing this again if everybody likes it. We'll see how it goes, and I can take feedback at the end about whether people want to do it again. Like, I'm very game to doing this more than once. I think it's experiments should be repeatable. This is kind of an experiment. It's very much an experiment, quite frankly. I have done this on my own in the interest of disclosure, but it was a one-man show. I've never done it in a large group like this, so kind of it's an experiment. So 7:35, so let's give people one more minute to vote. And then right now, Ukraine-Russia conflict, should abortion be banned? And is it better to take or not take the vaccine? I might actually, gosh, see, like, it's like making me choose between my kids here. I really like a lot of these.
So Garrett, I'm wondering if after we define it to those three or whatever we end up with, if we could do like a final vote, because I noticed some people are voting multiple times, like myself.
Oh, you can vote as many times as you want. I'm sorry. So just to be clear,
Okay.
you can vote as many times as you want. So everybody can vote as many times as you want. You just say whether or not you like something or don't like it. You just say a 1 if you want to do that, and nothing if you don't want to do it. So you can vote multiple times. Thank you for asking that question, because we should be able to. So Bunny, in order to vote, just add your name to a column that's free. So like I have my name here, Garrett, under column C. You can scroll over to the right to one of the blank columns. To the right of you can click F, and then just put the number 1 next to YJ8, I'm gonna mute you because you had a lot of background noise. Just put your number, the number 1 next to any topic that you wanna do analysis on. And we can do this 3 times because we have pretty much 3 that are like the front runners here. And I think they're all great topics. One of which I have a paper on actually. So they're all great topics, and one of which I've thought deeply about, and the other one of which I know almost nothing about, which is the Ukraine-Russia conflict, because I don't watch the news very much. Ironically, I'm doing this and I don't have enough time to watch the news very much, but important topics I do tend to look at. All right, so thanks, Shuri. Thanks for joining. Sorry you couldn't make it the whole time. So yeah, the marriage question is not there now. You're right, Bunny. I think someone removed it. If whoever had that, whoever created it didn't remove it intentionally, just add it back in. And then let's try to move on because it's 7:40 and we haven't gotten into the meat of the exercise, and I'm limited. I've been up since very early this morning, so I'm probably going to get very tired around 9. So so let's try to get those last votes in. Right now, the Ukraine-Russia conflict is a little bit ahead, and just a nudge ahead of abortion and better to take or not take the vaccine. I almost want to remove the Ukraine-Russia conflict, even though it's the one that I want to learn about the most because it's the one I know the least about. But the vaccine one is like a public health thing, which is like, you know, is it healthier to take or not take, is like relevant to everybody's day-to-day life. Whereas,
Well, when they start dropping bombs everywhere, that will be relative to our house.
I mean, hopefully not, but maybe, yeah.
So there's always that. If you want to go there.
If we start a war with Russia, it could well come back to the US. So you're right.
It's a much quicker way to go. You don't have to go to ICU. It'll happen very quickly.
Go right to whatever happens after death. Do not pass go. Do not collect $200. Sorry for anyone.
Yeah, no insurance, no anything.
Yeah.
We're good.
So all of our Black humor aside, Ukraine-Russia conflict seems to be number 1. So why don't we just choose that one? And then let's go to the team sheet and let's have everybody add their name in the team sheet. And I will put myself in so political position, and then team is going to be so the team will be like right, left, and center. I'll assign the teams. So for those that are willing to put their political position, I would appreciate it. It'll just make it easier to assign teams that are diverse so that we have people who have political positions on the left, right, and center on each one of the teams. And so just put your name and political position if you could. What does third way mean, Siri? Like is that center?
Actually, I didn't type that in the box. I didn't put in third way. I'm not sure who added that.
Okay.
I might have to adjust mine. Somebody might have, maybe that was Scott's.
My apologies, I screwed up.
Okay.
I don't know how to say something other than left, right, not middle, but third way.
Thanks. I'm gonna, if you don't mind, I'm gonna group you into a category.
Maybe independent.
Yeah, that's kind of like I sort of see center as independent. Like it's kind of in America, we tend to, and not that everybody's American here, I don't know who is and isn't, but like for we're using like we're kind of picking a lot of sources are, well, some of these sources are international, like the media sources. So but in general, right, left, and other is kind of the groupings that we'll use to simplify for tonight. Otherwise, we'll spend the whole night just discussing what what the political alignments are, which is, well, that could be a good topic for another night. That's not the goal for today.
Is the email address necessary?
No, it's not necessary. We're gonna take, for people that were willing to put in their emails, we're gonna add people to a mailing list so that we can invite you to like future events more easily, so that we can just like invite everyone on a calendar invite, so that you don't have to like take as much effort to do it. But it's a nice to have. It's not necessary. Just the political position is like a strongly preferred, but not a not absolutely necessary. And so I'm gonna look for
Did I do something to the persons above me? I'm sorry if I did, if I by accident clicked something. I think it was Octavio, maybe I did something by accident.
I'm gonna try to do libertarian left heterox. If you had to group left, right, center, what would you align best with?
I think I'll go with center. That's Siri.
Sorry to put you in a box. I don't like putting people in boxes, but tonight
No worry.
I have to somehow group people together.
Is this on the form? I don't know what you. Oh, I see where you are. Teams.
Yeah, it's the teams sheet. Sorry, we're gonna be moving through this, and then what we're gonna do next is, you're based on the team that you're on, you're gonna go to like left, right, or center, and then the team is gonna pick one article to analyze, and then everyone's gonna like analyze that one article. We're gonna like agree on the probably like we'll look for like a range in the media bias fact check, and then we'll a range of like where we're looking, like what sources are allowable, and then we'll we'll do it that way. So center, Octavio, what is left conservative?
I didn't put that. I just put left.
Okay.
I have a question: how to distinguish leftist from left? The Soviet Union tradition, left is more right. American, but it's not leftist.
I apologize to be US centric. I know that's not politically correct, but we're going to do it tonight just because it's going to be easier for me to make sense of things and for us to all use the same nomenclature. So when we're talking left, right, and center, we're talking US based left, right, and center. So like Democrat, Republican, center, although even Republican means different things 20 years ago versus today, but let's try to go with today's left, right, and center, because the articles we're going to read about the Ukraine are written today. So we don't have a lot of people on the right, but
okay, so this is specifically for left, right, and center on a Ukraine-Russia issue, right?
Yeah, it's on a Ukraine-Russia issue, and that's.
So how does that map to left, right, and center?
So we're gonna choose a news source about the Ukraine-Russia issue. One news source will be from a left-based source. Another will be from a right-based source. Like Fox News would be right-based. left, like an example of extreme left is like Daily Cause. And then center is like Reuters, Bloomberg is like very center. So we'll look at the media bias back.
No, Garrett, I think his question is like the position that we shared is our general position, not only on Ukraine. Like,
Correct.
are you
Correct.
left leaning, right leaning?
Your general position of like
yeah. So this is correct.
Well, okay, my understanding of Daily Cause is I think they actually say explicitly that their purpose is to help get Democrats elected. So
yeah, again, like I'm saying,
calling the extreme left is, I mean, you can't call the Democratic Party extreme left.
Well, okay, so look, I don't want to debate that. Like, I'm just trying to give an example of a left-leaning, a left-leaning, media bias. So
yeah, I mean, you can make an argument that the Republican Party is probably at this point run by very, very right people, and then the Democratic Party is right now by very, very left people. I think if you say that, that's a fairly fact-based statement at this point, because the centrists are definitely not in power, because they're war, we'd be doing stuff.
Hey Garrett, I saw you change mine to left. Does that mean I wouldn't identify as left?
Which one are you? Sorry.
Scott.
Scott.
Yeah.
I have yours as center, and I put you to team left. So
got it. Okay. So
you're going to review an article.
Hey, Garrett,
Okay.
this is Ocean. Ocean. I'm still, to be honest with you, I'm not still clear of the definition of what constitutes a person of the center. So let's say if I was the center person, which candidate I should have voted, the Trump or the Biden? I mean, you can't be completely center, right?
Ocean, like for purposes, I'm going to let people identify with whatever they want. If they're male born and they want to identify as female, they can. So please, let's not debate that. People are allowed to identify as whatever they want. We're going to take them at their word that they are whatever they identify as. So we have to try to get to the actual reading of the articles. That's the only reason I'm concerned here, because our time is short. So I have right. I need someone right. Let me.
Excuse me, what is the meaning of a team right, left, center?
So that's what type of source you're going to be reading.
Oh, I see. Okay.
Yeah. And so, for example, if the team is center, we have two centers looking at a center, which isn't ideal. And so I need a center looking at the left. So let me put the center looking at the left, and then the center looking at the right, and then left, center, right, left. And thank you guys for helping me simplify that. And let's say the team left has 4 centers. Is that possible? So we need some lefts. So team left has 4 centers and left. So let's put this person on the right. Let's put the left on the right, center, left, and then see how we land there. We have a lot of centrists. 6 people on the right, and we have 3 people on the center, so we want to move 1 over.
4. We are 4 in the center.
So we have 4 center aligned people on the team right, but we actually have 6 people on team right. So I'm going to move one of the people on team right that's centrist to the center. One of the ones that's team right. So move that to the center, and then I think we're in good shape. Yeah. So we have three centrists on each team, 3 left-based people on 3 teams, and the person on the right gets to represent the right. So I think that's a well-balanced team. Who's the one? Richard. So let me make sure that Richard has a team. Center. And let's let Richard go with, Richard, do you want to choose left or center? Let's go with center since you're a center-based guy. So basically, whichever side you're on, I'm going to do breakout teams now. And what I'm going to do, I'm just going to do random breakout teams, but I'm going to name the groups of left, right, and center. Whether, like, whatever your team is, go to the breakout room of that group. And then in that group, let me look for, I'm going to be on the right. Scott, like, can someone from team center and someone from team left volunteer to moderate?
They're all moderate for center.
Great. And then can someone from the left moderate? Sean, Jose, Warren, Michael, any of you a game? Yen?
Oh, Gary, you can put me in the center. I'm having trouble with typing stuff in there.
Who is that?
It's Chris.
Chris? Chris, center. Chris, do you want to moderate?
I saw somebody's already moderating for the center.
Oh, was someone moderating from the center? Sorry.
I think Scott was, right?
Yeah,
I
I said I would. I don't care though. You can.
And I'm going to put, Chris, I'm going to put you on the left and you can moderate for left, okay?
What? Okay. Yeah.
You said you're center aligned, but you're not always going to be aligned to the team that you aligned with. You're going to be,
I got it.
you're going to be
Okay.
reading an article from the left from the perspective of someone in the center. And so Chris is a moderator, and then Scott was the other one, and then me. And so for the moderators, just help choose an article from your group. What I'm going to do is break us out into breakout groups, and then choose
Critical
a,
thinking group that I had scheduled before. Or other than this, what's in that?
His family. Warren has to leave, so he's not going to moderate. Okay, so we're going to do breakout groups now, and then choose in your breakout group an article. And then when you look at that article, I'm going to try to jump around and try to help and make sure everything's going well. Pull out in the article like a summary of each fact or opinion, every salient fact or opinion, and say whether it's a fact or an opinion. And if it's a fact, try to discern whether it's accurate or not, or whether or not there's any question. And if it doesn't sound like it might be accurate, then find an objective source validating that it's accurate, and then quote that objective source validating that it's accurate where possible. So that's what we want to do next. And we'll try to do that for like 20 minutes or so. and hopefully we can pull through the facts and opinions of the.
Where are the articles?
So we'll Google. So we'll look on the internet for articles around the Ukraine-Russia border. Oh, and I'm sorry, that's a great point. We need to look at our sources. So if we go to the media bias fact chart, so let's say somewhere close to the skews left, between skews left, like close to the skews left to hyperpartisan left and skews right to hyperpartisan right, like try to be on that line. So like Review Blaze, CBN, Breitbart, I don't know how to pronounce it, OAN, you know, things like that. And then Salon, Daily Cause, the Daily Beast, you know, in this range. Whereas the centrist should be like right on the middle, like Reuters, News Station, Truth Fiction, you know, those types of things. And so I'm going to put the link of the media bias fact chart in the chat. And so just for each of the moderators, try to make sure that you find a source of the Ukraine situation from that range. Okay. And try to be as high in the reliability as possible, but like, you know, ideally not below this line of WSWS.org, like ideally not below that line, because that becomes like less reliable news. So let's go into breakout sessions, and I have to remember how to do this more.
Where do we find that chart?
So I put it in the chat. It's the Ad Fontes media.
Okay, guys. Good. Yeah.
Yeah. And then here we go. Where the heck are the breakout rooms?
Yeah, I can't find breakout rooms. There you go.
Bizarre. I swear to God, I've always had breakout rooms and I can't find them anywhere. And I'm sure that I'm
Do you
looking-
have to get out of this records setting first to get it?
Let me see if I have to stop sharing, but I don't think so. I'm pretty sure I've always been able to do breakout rooms. I wonder if they like, but here it is. All right, so I'm gonna go into assign automatically and just go to whoever your moderator is. So the moderators are, the moderators are me for team right, Scott for team center, and Chris for team left. And the team that you're on is column E in the teams sheet. And so just go to I'm going to say let participants choose room, and I'm going to create 3 breakout rooms. And so just go to the breakout room of the person you're in, and Scott and Chris, if you're in the same room, just go to different rooms and I'll move into the one that you're not in.
Okay.
All right, thanks everyone. And we'll come back here afterward. And now
Sorry,
you have
where
to,
do I see those rooms?
so, actually, it lets us join. So room 1 is going to be right, room 2 is going to be center, and room 3 is going to be left. And so under breakout rooms, you should be able to choose room 1, 2, and 3. And so again, 1 is right, 2 is center, and 3 is left. So if anyone's having trouble, like people that are team right, so Alex, Octavio, Peter, go into team right, and I'll be joining you in a minute, which is room 1. And if you're not part of a team, just choose whichever one you want. Anybody having trouble and not know where to go?
I'm gonna come to.
So room 1 is the right, and room 2 is center, and room 3 is left.
Okay, so Zoom doesn't let you name the rooms. You have to.
Yeah, it's just room 1. It may. I don't think there's a way to rename them.
I'm not seeing the options. Oh, breakout rooms. Excuse
Yeah,
me.
under breakout rooms, there's a join button. And so if you're on team right, which doesn't mean you necessarily have a right leaning opinion, this is the team of the article you're going to be reading. And so if you're reading a right wing article, then go to room 1. If you're reading a left wing article, go to room 3. And if you're reading a center based article, go to room 2. Anyone not sure where they're going? Everyone should be in a room. So if you're not in a room, let me know. Alexander, you're in room 1. Ocean, let's see where you are. You didn't put yourself anywhere, so go ahead and choose. Hombre, I don't see you in there. Alex, you're in the team right. I have you as center, but you're in team right, so go to room 1. So I'm going to go to room 1 as well, and let's start looking for an article.
Oh, the breakout room is being recorded too. Okay.
Hey guys. So
Okay.
let's look for a right-wing article about the Ukraine. And again, we want to get like like Fox News is one that I'm sure has stuff about the Ukraine, and it's right in that like skews right, not quite hyper partisan right, but a little bit on that direction, skews right. So let's see, Fox News, Ukraine.
Well, here's something by Tucker Carlson, but that doesn't count as news, does it?
Which one?
The one I put in the chat.
I didn't see that. Oh yeah, Tucker Carlson war. That's an opinion though. We want like something that's an official, official news source. So
if we go to the Fox News main website, there's probably going to be something on that main page.
yeah, there's like 4 top stories. State Department says no signs of Russian de-escalation towards Ukraine, defends NATO unity. Russia-Ukraine crisis already paying dividends for Putin. Biden says US-based troops may embark for Europe soon. Fox Business's General Keane explains Biden's serious tragic error as Russia-Ukraine conflict. I feel like that's let me see if that's like a legit.
What, the business
it's in
one?
Military and Defense, published 7 hours ago, so it's hot off the press, with an interview from a general.
Room 1, is it the right room?
What's that?
I'm a little bit lost. Is it the right team group?
This is the right team. So we're watching an article. We're going to read an article from the right. That doesn't mean you are on the right from your political perspective. It means we're reading an article from a right-wing source.
So maybe it's a right group. Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
you're in the
so-
right group, Alexander.
Yeah. So Garrett, you found one, but you didn't tell us where to find it.
So I'm going to put the link. I don't think this is the best one. I'm going to do a screen share. It's a kind of short article that might actually be good. I don't know. Like, we don't want it to be too
It says
long.
opinion right on top.
This one is an opinion. Yeah, this is an
says that.
opinion. We don't want that one. This one is not an opinion. It's under military defense. This is the first one that I looked at. General Keane explains Biden's serious tragic error as Russia-Ukraine conflict escalates. I feel like this is good because it like represents the right's criticism of a Democratic president. So I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, they don't call this opinion, but if it says this is this person's explanation of an error, well, how is this not opinion?
Well, it's that's an interesting point. This is what Fox considers their official stance, right? So like pretty much all media gives opinions in their articles nowadays. Like left wing does it, right wing does it, center does it. They all give opinions, but there should be facts that we can discern. And so our job as critical thinkers is to look at this article and say, what are the facts that they claim? And then are these facts validatable by any source other than a right-wing source? So let's use this one if you guys are okay with it. And I get what you're saying, like you could say, saying that it's a serious tragic error is an opinion, but that's a general's official stance. So that it is an opinion, but this gets into a philosophical thing of what is fact and opinion, which is why we started with what is a fact. And so a fact is that Biden put 8,500 US troops on heightened alert. And let me put this article. Is anyone concerned with using this article? Is everyone okay using it?
Well, I think there's some on the front page that are more, more factual, but maybe they're not. I mean, like the first one is State Department says no signs of Russian de-escalation towards Ukraine defense NATO unity. So it's I mean, just from what I'm seeing in the headline there, they're just saying, okay, the State Department had this press conference and this is what they said.
So go ahead and put the, well, see that's, yeah, I mean, you can put the article in the chat and I guess in some respects, we should let the person who was, right leaning is Trevor. So Trevor, do you want to I think we can let Trevor choose the article.
Oh, I don't know. Let's choose something provocative.
That's what I was doing, right? Because saying Biden made a serious tragic error is provocative, right? So
to be serious, before the real escalation of conflict, United States usually evacuate embassy, businesses, American citizens, and so we should find information about actual evacuation of American citizens and members of a family first. If it's happening really, it will be a kind of conflict. If not, it's kind of bullshit.
I didn't understand that, Alexander. I'm sorry.
Before serious conflict, United States military evacuates citizens. Embassy, diplomats, businessmen, all citizens. So if the conflict is gonna happen, people have to be evacuated first.
People have to be what first?
Evacuated, right? Evacuated, right?
Okay.
Yep.
So what we're trying to do, Alexander, is we're not coming up with our own opinion about the conflict. We're trying to look for a Fox News source writing an article about the conflict, and then we're going to try to pull out the facts that they enlighten us about and the opinions that they share with us from that article.
Hey, Garrett, I want to borrow some of your wisdom. Do you, before we proceed, do you remember? You and I are old enough to remember back in the 1991 when the Gulf War started. We saw some 13-year-old girl crying the guts out and telling the world, Americans, telling the world how the evil Saddam Hussein is taking the baby out of the incubator and smashing down to kill the baby. And we all believed that Saddam was an evil. And we went, although public opinion went for the supporting the Gulf War. But later it turned out that she was lying. It was all fake. Now, back in 2003, the Colin Powell, our trusted politician, told us that we all the Saddam Hussein has the weapon of mass destruction, and therefore all the people believed the fact, and we supported the Iraq War, which again later turned out to be the fake, and we spent $3 trillion for nothing other than invading
I did this. Sorry to cut you off, but we have very limited time, and I want to get to an article. We still haven't chosen an article, and we're 10 minutes in, so we need to choose an article.
I wanted to borrow your opinion about that.
Yeah, I don't want to go there. I'll just tell you, I did this exercise back then, and I was not convinced that there was a good reason to go into Iraq, even in spite of the fact that most media was saying we should. So I think we should, look at, use our critical thinking skills to analyze one of these stories. If you guys are okay with it, just to choose one, like, well, I think.
What are we looking? What are we looking for? I mean, I thought what we're looking for is an article that says these are the facts of what is going on, and all I can find on the Fox News website is this person is saying this and this person is saying that.
So let me show you an example.
Here are the facts.
We're going to use this General Keane bit, says that Biden's making a serious strategic error. Okay, so we're going to use this article. I'll post it again. And basically, Biden puts 8,500 troops on heightened alert as Russia's aggression rises. That's a fact, right? That is something that Biden has done that this article is telling us about. So we write that down in the article. You can see me screen sharing, and so I'm going to go in right. The fact is, 8,500 troops on heightened alert by Biden. So that's a fact. Now, I don't have a good reason to think that that's not accurate, right? Like, we could fact check that, and if someone wants to, feel free, but I don't have a reason to fact check it. Now let's keep reading and see what else we learn that there's a fact.
Well, okay. I mean, just the first word of the headline, General Keane. Now, is he a general? I just looked him up. He's a retired general.
That's a great point. So
he's not.
Yeah. So that's a great
general.
point. So write that down. Write down that General Keane explains Biden's serious strategic error as Russia-Ukraine conflict. Say and make that make a note of that, right? That is what I would call like a misrepresentation, right? Like, he's not a current general, he's a retired general. So that's, in some respects, like a little bit of a stretch of a fact. So write that down in the spreadsheet if you could. That's a great job fact checking. That's exactly what we want to do. And if we say like General Keane criticized President Biden as a serious strategic error in his handling of the Ukraine-Russia like that's an opinion, right? He said, and let's see if they have a reason to support that. I believe Biden has made a serious strategic error, and that is to not use preemption actions prior to an invasion to deter. After all, he has gone to the option of using the threat of consequential action after an invasion to deter the invasion, and that has always been fundamentally flawed. So it sounds like the opinion here is that Biden, like his model is that Biden has made an error by not taking preemptive action to deter an invasion. Right? That's General Keane's, former General Keane's opinion.
Yeah, I'm just looking up information about General Keane, and yeah, he's a retired general, and right now he's the chairman of the company that manufactures Humvees. So that should go somewhere. I'm not sure where that fits in your spreadsheet.
He should. So we should preemptively send a lot of Humvees to the Ukraine. So.
Well, they sell Humvees to the military.
I'm sorry. Like I was agreeing with you, but probably shouldn't have been. Like you're right, and it's a salient fact that he has a potential like bias in saying that, like, so I'm trying to figure out, like, when they say that he should take preemptive actions, let's see if this article explains what preemptive action. So yes, those troops should have been in NATO countries weeks ago. Okay, so secondly, we should have put increased American trainers inside of Ukraine. We have 150 in there. We should have increased that training capacity. We should have significantly increased the arms to Ukraine. So basically saying we should have sent a lot of arms to the Ukraine.
That's opinion.
That's the former general's opinion, is that we should have taken preemptive strikes. And I don't see like something that I would want to know when you say we should have done it before. Like what was the indicator that should have said we should have taken action earlier, right? Like I don't, and again, I haven't been following this really clearly. So if this is an obvious answer, let me know. And maybe it's because I don't watch the news very much, but like I don't see this article say, what should have been the indicator that should have made Biden do that. You know what I mean? Like that seems like a salient fact that to me is missing from the article. And maybe we should write that down as like missing facts. So basically the general idea is so he's saying they should have sent more arms and troops sooner. That's like his opinion. So for me, it's like as far as like whether or not it's accurate, the missing fact is like when, right? Like he should have sent them 3 weeks ago when Russia put its troops on the border. Like when did Russia put its troops on the border?
Well, I mean, I think it would go like, I'm not trying to derail the conversation, but does your epistemology, whose epistemology allows for categorical imperatives or commands to be truth at? Because he's not framing it in like a hypothetical form. It's like, we should have done this, right? Instead of, well, we should have done this if this was the goal. Does anybody know like what a verificationist principle is, analytic, synthetic truth, that sort of thing?
Unless like I'm not totally following you, admittedly. I think I'm very mired in the the fact versus opinion of like what's going on, and I'm not following you. I'm sorry.
It's all good. I'll let it go.
So this article is not very long, and it's almost all opinion.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
you pointed there's in fact 8,500 U.S. troops there, and then there's something like 100. We have 150 American trainers inside of Ukraine.
So it might be worth getting another article, because I agree with you. That's the only fact that seems to be in the article at all. The rest is opinion, right?
The one I posted is no good either.
Okay. So
Maybe
that's,
there are no good
it's
things.
worth like including though, to say like, that is the, what was published by this source, which is in itself sort of interesting, right? So like, let's put the article here, and there's one fact and one opinion. And when I looked up when the troops were at the border, it actually was a while ago. So, Russia planning massive military offensive against Ukraine involving 175,000 troops. This is in December 3rd of 2021. So we did have quite a bit of warning. So theoretically, one could impute, when he said earlier, when, probably December last year, like we could have moved more troops in the direction of the Ukraine. Now, like using our critical thinking skills, right? If you make a threat to someone, that is a risk, right? If you threaten someone, there's a risk of them throwing a punch at you. And yet it could have been a preemptive action to take to sort of try to de-escalate things, and that, both different opinions on like ways to do it. And
I wonder why so many troops. It's a lot. It's not 20th century now. It's century of aviation and special forces.
Sorry, my video was playing. Could you say that again?
Yeah. 175,000 soldiers, it's too much. It will be fine in the middle of 20th century, but now in the age of aviation, high tech, and special force, it looks way too much, way too much. In Syria or in Kazakhstan, Russia used hundreds of soldiers, at most thousands, but not hundreds of thousands.
I'm hosting with 40 people. Stop. Sorry. So I'm gonna go to the other rooms, and if you guys want to go to another article, you know, I'm just gonna make sure that the other rooms are in good shape, and then hopefully we can go back to the main room and we can kind of evaluate the overall superset of facts that we've learned about right, left, and center. Okay, so if you guys want to jump to another article, it sounds like the second one wasn't very good either, but like you didn't get very many facts out of it. Trevor, if you have an article like from Fox that has a lot of facts, it would be great to pull one up so we can pull the facts, because I think it's really good to see, you know, left, right, and centers, the facts that each one presents. That gives you a more well-rounded view of the situation. So we want to glean as many facts that get presented from a right-wing source as possible. So if anyone can find a good right-wing factual, you know, source full of facts, that'd be great. I'll be back.
The last one I posted is not bad.
Good. If you could start walking everyone through that and like helping tease out the facts, it would be great. Just put it in the article or put it in the spreadsheet, and then that'd be great. I'll be back.
Well, the only thing is depending how, because at least the story that the history that I know is that it was a referendum from the people that live in Crimea, and they agreed for, I don't know, 90% of the people, they wanted to go to Russia.
How are you guys doing on the article? Just wanted to do a quick time check.
We've got about just maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 things to tell about factor opinion. So we're getting close.
Great. Just keep working through it. I just wanted to check in and see how it's going. Looks like you're doing a great job.
Okay, what time do you want us back?
I always like to do everything as fast as possible while maintaining accuracy. So just do your best and try to get done. And then maybe when you guys are done, I think actually I don't think there's a way for you to go back to the central room. Just send me a message or send me an alert saying like you need my help, and then I'll know that you're done.
Okay. Do you want to put a link in chat for us to get back?
I don't think I have a way to do that.
Okay, no worries.
So just like message me. You can send a message to me, and if I don't hear from you in like 10 minutes, I'll probably come back.
Okay, perfect.
Thanks.
What is the view? What is the view of Putin on this thing? I mean, what is not the communicated need, but the real need? So no idea of this. I mean, the only thing is that obviously Ukraine becoming eventually a member of NATO means that NATO countries can place some arsenal of whatever in Ukraine, which is very close to the Russian border. But I don't know if that is the public demand, the public reason.
Sorry,
I would like to know
Jose,
more
I just
about
want to
that.
check.
Yeah.
Do you guys have an article that you're analyzing?
Yeah, we had an article, and then we already finished analyzing it.
So have you put the data in? Because I don't see the data in the spreadsheet under the left tab.
Oh, had to put data in?
Yeah,
That's
so
not good.
in the spreadsheet, there's a left tab, and you want to like list out all the facts and what the facts and the opinions, and you want to list out whether it's a fact or an opinion. And if it's a fact that sounds suspicious, fact check it and see if you can find an objective source that validates that that's actually true.
I'm having some trouble putting things in, as you know, like for my particular device.
I can try and do it.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, Michael, if you can do it, I can. Yeah, and
Okay, so this is an opinion piece.
Yeah.
Better. I mean, if you already did the opinion piece, you can do that, but it's better to not choose an opinion piece. I should have said that in the beginning.
No, there's some facts in the article, so we can just say here are the facts, and then here's the non-facts, right? And then we can go with that. Right, because like, so for example, like it makes the claim that Trump was held aids, right, for personal favor to Ukraine, right, for a certain amount of time. That's a fact, verified by.
So the Ukraine-Russia thing is supposed to be, well, is this about the current situation with the Ukraine, like with Russia, the Russian troops on the border?
It's about the current Ukraine-Russia situation and the potential political fallouts.
Got it.
For the Democratic and Republican Party. Yes.
Great. So just add the facts and opinions in the spreadsheet if you could. Like, yeah, I see you have opinion in there. And so just add whatever the opinion is and add whatever the facts are that came from the article and put a link to the article. Like in, I'm going to add a row, like put in row 3, like under summary, just put a link to the article that you're using so that we can reference the article in the large group. And then what we're going to end up doing is we're going to put all of the validated facts and opinions from the 3 sheets into one validated facts and conclusions, where we take all the valid facts. Actually, we probably should put all the valid and invalid ones to learn from the ones that are invalid, like claimed facts that turn out not to be fact. And then we'll draw our own conclusions as a group.
Okay.
Okay, the link goes where now?
Just put the link to the article in like A3.
A3.
Yeah.
Got it. Paste. Okay. Control V. All right. How do we get that to fold? So it's not, or do we'll just write off that line, I guess.
Don't worry about it. Just don't use that line. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So so Chris, what do we want to put in here?
I think let's do the easiest one first. I think on the facts, right? The biggest piece of the facts in there is, during this period of time, the Congress passed the aid package for Ukraine, and then through the discovery of the testimony and the phone call, it seems that Trump have held that particular aid up, right, for a few months to Ukraine. That's verified by many sources, and only disputed by like the diehardest of the right-wing media. So I think that one you can put on as facts. Everybody will agree that happened.
Hey, Chris, how do I get on your working sheet, the one that we're trying to fill in?
Let's see. I can post a link.
Did you create another one, or did you rename one? I don't know.
All right. So I put a link in
the
chat.
Yeah, Michael's working on it. So yeah.
Okay.
Link in the chat.
You guys can both put it in.
Yeah.
And then to say that and then the opinion piece is Trump could have prevented this maneuver from Russia, and 2 encouraged and emboldened Putin. That'll be like the what I call the opinion piece, right? So
like I just included like invasion of Ukraine would be Trump's fault was an opinion that was in the article, right? That's their
Yeah.
opinion. That's not a.
That's
an
our
objective
opinion.
fact.
Exactly. It's
Now,
very hard to verify.
Putin claiming sovereignty over the Ukraine, to Trump is likely a fact.
Yeah, well, so the thing I think this article I point out is, doesn't give the complete picture because Russia actually invaded Ukraine back in 2014, right? So
Right.
they took like 30% of the country in 2014, and the juiciest piece because it's got the port and access to the sea and the naval base. And in that time, Putin have already said that Russia and Ukraine is always one country, right? So
Right.
that's during
This-
Obama's time.
This actually does say that in this article. It says Trump told world leaders that Russia really owns a large part of the Ukraine because they speak Russian there. So that's that does seem to be like, and it is mentioned that it was annexed by force in 2014.
Right. So what I'm saying is that you had to say one person's talking points versus what I call the lack of action, right? So between him like making that speech, and then when Russia did it, there's about like 2.5 years of time, right? Which didn't really do anything, really concretely that hurt Russia or make it think, oh, I really shouldn't think Ukraine, belongs to me. I should keep on building my force and invading. In fact, they have done just the opposite. So I think that's a good discussion between fact and opinion, because what people say, because there's always this media say what people say matters. I always thinking that what you do matters also, right? Did you actually send troops? Did you actually put in the correct economic sanctions, right? So for example, completely unrelated, right? Election interference, right? Both the 2016 and 2020, we're supposed to punish Russia, in a draconian way. Nothing. Really, if you really look at the financial records and how much the Russian oligarch and Putin have suffered, that's the fact. They have not really paid a heavy price, because they have paid a heavy price, they would have changed their behavior. So I would just say that, as much as what people say on TV, what we think really matters, I think it's really what you actually do as a government that really matters. And that's really has been nothing to really dissuade Russia from doing what it's doing right now.
You're getting into the analysis that we're going to do.
No, I know, but I'm just saying that.
All I would ask you to do is hold off on that because we're a little behind schedule. So focus on just because this article has a lot of facts in it, quite frankly. Like our Fox News article only had one fact and one opinion. It was very short. So I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Yeah, just like, did he say that? Yes, he has said that. Yes, let's put that down.
So just add the facts and opinions from the article, and then if any of the facts sound suspicious, fact check them with like anyone that's not biased towards the left, and see whether they can be independently verified.
All right. All right, so Jose and Sean Yan, any thoughts other than what Trump have said in public and the withhold of aid by the Trump administration? Anything else you guys want to put down as facts?
I added row 10. I don't know if you can see it.
So like Trump withholding military aid to the Ukraine, conditioning the aid on a political favor. So is that like, is that a, do you think that that would hold up to scrutiny of like an independent source? Did anyone fact
No.
check that?
The source they quote here is General Ben Hodges. So
No. Actually, there was what do you call this? There is multiple party verification, right? Starting with Colonel Whitman, right? Who was the whistleblower, and then you have Women's boss, which is Fiona Hill, who was the U.S. What do you call that? Foreign advisor on Russia, and then there's John Bolton, who was the Secretary of, I think it was the Secretary of State, right? He wrote a book about this. So yeah, I would say that a variety of people have confirmed that this particular thing happened. Yeah, so I would say that will hold up to the scrutiny of what I call common sense consumption.
I remember there was like there was a woman that was like very well entrenched in like the Ukrainian embassy.
That
or
was
something like
that was Fiona Hill. Yeah, that was Fiona Hill.
That's it.
But actually, she was actually a little. I mean, they were all on this call, so there were like 8 people on this call, and then basically, other than the lawyer on this call, who was Trump's lawyer, everybody else have basically testified directly, indirectly that this happened. So yeah.
So there is official testimony that that call happened. That's like, under penalty of perjury testimony.
Under penalty of perjury. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay. So that would be a good fact check, if you don't mind like quickly Googling that and then putting the source like under if fact, is it accurate? Because someone from the right will probably question that. And so you should bolster it with like a backup, and then objective source validating accuracy, quote the article, quote for, or objective source validating accuracy will be an article that, mentions that testimony, and then quote from objective source validating accuracy will like, you'll quote the.
Well, I don't think, so I'll put it this way, Gary, right? So let's do like backward deduction. So the only thing that the people can dispute is whether Trump said, "Would you do me a favor?"
Yeah,
right?
exactly. That's the part I'm worried about.
But hang on. What's not disputable, and I think this is the key piece, and people don't talk about it enough, is that the aid was approved by Congress to go, right, about like a year before.
Right.
And the president of Ukraine goes on TV every month to ask for this aid, and the Congress tells him that there's no holdup, right? The U.S. Congress said we already approved it, there's no holdup, and it ended up being held up for a year. That cannot be disputed by anyone, even the diehard is right, because the money and the arms simply didn't arrive until this particular report was published.
Yeah.
After this report was published, it arrived within like 3 weeks. So.
Yeah, I get it. And that's a really good observation, because why else was the aid withheld if not for a favor? Like, what was the rationale? And, that would be a worthwhile thing that maybe in the large group we can Google and see if we can find any other explanation. If no other explanation is given, then, you would think that.
Because otherwise you can never convince people, because like see, since everybody had basically indirectly or directly testified this have happened on the call, but you can still say, well, they all hate, if I'm a right-leaning person, I can just say they all hate Trump, right? And they conspire together to
Right. No, I get it.
to defame him,
No,
right?
but
You can't win that one.
No, you can, because your argument is basically saying, why else was that military aid withheld? And why was no better explanation for withholding it given?
Right. That's why I'm going the other way, because I don't think you can't convince them like just doing by all these people said this, and that's not enough.
But I think that is good to bolster that there is independent validation of the fact that people under penalty of perjury like said it. But then the other thing to augment that makes it more, remember, we're talking about probability of truth here. The thing that makes it even more probable that it was in exchange for a political favor is that no better motive for withholding the funds came out. Which is what you said, basically.
Yeah, well, exactly. And
Yeah.
actually this is even more complicated because they actually didn't even tell Congress that this was not done, right? So this is the part of the bureaucracy of the U.S. government, that the Congress assumed that this was done, and the executive branch never told them that it hasn't been done.
Oh, see,
right?
there's an interesting, so this is an interesting fact, is that because Trump was holding the security aid back, the president of the Ukraine said it was making them more susceptible. And interestingly, in the Fox News thing, they were saying how like Biden should have sent more military aid to the Ukraine earlier. So I find that fascinating, right?
Yeah.
Trump
So
held security aid back, making the Ukraine weaker, and then Fox News then turns around and says, you should have sent more military aid to the Ukraine sooner, Biden. What's your problem?
Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, you can't use the same talking points. Now you're just on opposite sides, right? So
Well, that's called hypocrisy, and people do it all the time.
That's television.
Whether or not
television.
whether or not we as a populace should accept hypocrisy is another question, which we should discuss another night. But pointing out that it is hypocrisy, I think, is fair game.
Yeah.
So I'm going to.
All right. I think we're good. Michael, did you? Sorry about that, Michael. You're like the official note taker. Do we get all that in?
Actually, somebody else has filled in most of the information.
Oh, that's perfect.
So I was just letting them do it.
As long as it's not me, because I couldn't do it. Yeah. All right.
But
I think we're good.
Adding
more or less.
So this is why I find this so valuable, is looking at the right and the left and the center. You really learn so much more than just looking at one perspective of media. You learn so much more. And I do this about every important subject. I did it about Iraq back when we were rattling the saber about Iraq, and it was fascinating. Although almost everybody was supporting the war in Iraq, and I still didn't, but that's another story. I don't mean to digress, but let's try to make sure, because there's a lot of facts in here.
Yeah, so I think the key here too, right? I mean, this is just not on just this topic. I think whenever you have a particular conflict between two parties, it's very difficult to get unbiased news. I mean, obviously this one is even more convoluted because it's got a Republican, Democrat inside of it. But even if we're united as a nation, it's very hard to get a true story, the Russian side of the story, the US side of the story, because the media is so linked in with the government. What I found to be useful on any topics is to take a third party media outlet. So for example, a lot of my views on this, is really, I get some really good ones from the French news outlets, right? And Al Jazeera, a Middle East outlet, because they don't really have as much of a dog in the fight as the US and the UK outlets, for example, right? That to me is probably the way to do it. It's very difficult. So for example, you want like a real Chinese story, is probably not going to be very useful to get it from the Washington Post or the China news from the Chinese government, right? Or even from Hong Kong. You probably want to get somewhere, again, like from a Australian, French, or Indonesian view. You probably have a better sense of what that conflict looks like to the third party.
So I think I agree with you, and I think looking for an other than right, left, center, and like an international source is a great idea. Like, it's great to get outside perspectives, and that's where looking from as many perspectives as possible is great. And I'd encourage you to bring that up when we go back to the group in a few minutes. I also find interesting that in this article, they talk about how the blowback is going to fall on Biden, right? And so they're also acknowledging that Biden, they actually basically blame like the botched withdrawal in Afghanistan on Biden, which I find interesting because that was the withdrawal plan that Trump scheduled and Biden just executed on it. Now, maybe Biden blew the logistics of it, and I don't know the details of that, but I find it interesting that a left-wing source is very much willing to blame Biden and say, look, you screwed up here, man.
No. I think there's a nuance there. I think the article is really saying when this thing goes bad, which is really funny because it's already assuming it's going to go really bad, everybody will blame Biden. This is the reason they will blame Biden, but they will be wrong because the Trump and Republicans is really at fault here, right? So the article is more like
that in the beginning, but they also acknowledge what they consider sort of the reality, which is it's still going to fall on Biden.
Yeah, no. So that's what I'm saying. It's more to me. It's saying that everything's going to go bad, and then of course the incumbent is always going to get the blame, and that's normal. And then it basically, but to me the purpose of the article is still saying, hey, like let me cover for my guy because it's not really his fault, right?
I don't know if that is always normal because like when Trump was president, he often like didn't get the blame for stuff. If you were reading Fox News, Trump didn't get the blame for anything when he was president. Like he did nothing wrong as president.
Oh yeah, okay, that's interesting. Yeah, I mean like
if you read the right-wing sources, they really stand by the right-wing presidents. If you read the left-wing sources, they're very quick to blame the left-wing president.
Okay, I agree with you on that. They definitely they behave differently, right? The right is a little more united, a little more loyal.
Right.
The left will just stab you in the back, any chance it gets.
So you could look at it as stab you in the back, or you could say, look, they're willing to call out their leaders if they make a mistake, and we should talk as a group about which one it is. And
stab in the back is probably the wrong word. I would just say there was a interesting I think peer review. I forgot which university did it. I think it's the University of London. So they did like a poll on 2,000 people to say that how do you feel about America, and based on your political leanings, right? Mm-hmm. It just seems that when they polled it, the right obviously have a very nostalgic view. They say everything was great before, right now it's crap, right? And the problem is what make the left difference, the left think is crap right now, and it's getting worse, but it's always crappy, right? It was never good.
Right.
So I think that's probably the best way to summarize the left versus the right in America is that the left always think it's crappy and it's very pessimistic about the future, and is always looking for someone to blame, no matter who is in charge. Which is not a good attitude to unite
see
people.
If everybody's ready to go back to the main room, because we only have to, actually I'm going to just bring everyone back to the main room because we only have
that'd be good.
Okay, I think you might be back.
I don't know why this message comes. It's automatic, and I normally I like yes, New York Times.
Yeah,
it's serious, but I don't go even close to Fox News or anything like that.
Yeah.
So I have an opinion that I read fairly biased news, to be honest. I used to read National Review quite a bit, which is pretty far right. And I think whether it's right or left, I don't think there's necessarily anything wrong with having an opinionated bias as long as you're being conscious. You're number one, letting people know where you stand on the issue, and then number two, that you don't lie when you're writing the article. And I
Yeah.
think that left or right, you can write a slanted article, kind of adding your opinion to it or your beliefs. But when you're saying, you know, there's 100,000 troops or something like that, you're doing it, you're not trying to sway that number so that it fits your narrative.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just wish more outlets would be a little more upfront with what their biases are.
So guys, we're
Yeah.
back here as a big group, and we're going to try to run through the facts. We only have about 10 minutes left. I might be able to run a little long, but I don't want to go too far over because it's been a long session. And I was up ridiculously early this morning. my personal bias, I apologize for that. So what I'm going to do is let's start with let's see, does anyone want to go first? Right, left, or center?
Sure, I'll go first for center.
Yeah, go ahead. So what we'll do is, well, if you don't mind, let me just suggest, let's go through and just present the facts and opinions, and present whether they're facts or opinions, and what you know, kind of like what you learned, what you gleaned from those facts and opinions, and then if you could, anything that's like about, like, you know, let's just do that for each group.
Yeah, perfect.
Okay, and I'm assuming everyone's looking at the spreadsheet, or should I share my screen here?
Share your screen if you could.
All right, let's do that.
Or actually, I can share it so that way I have it open for all three.
Okay, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So go ahead and talk us through this.
Okay, so yeah, we picked an article from the BBC, pretty much the first one we could find, and just started dissecting the statements, scrubbing the article and dissecting the statements, breaking each one of those into a statement. I added a new column there, and then we all broke up. Kind of as I was dumping these into the column, people would go off and basically it was a pretty simplistic process where we just sought out other articles that were stating the same thing, and if they differed at all, we called it an opinion. One example here being the statement that there were an estimated 100,000 troops deployed near the border. We found varying numbers, I think as low as 75,000. So that's a considerable difference. So we call that an opinion.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, that was our basic process. We, as you can see, we didn't fill out most of the cells. You know, like one thing I brought up was, and I'll let other people speak up if they have other thoughts on this in our group, but you know, I'm always cautious when there's a non-quantifiable word like deep or high or things like that. That's pretty much it.
Great. So just running through, like, Russia's resisted movement towards European institutions, which you found was an opinion, whereas the resisting the move towards NATO was a fact, and deep social and cultural ties with Russia is a fact. Russia annexed Crimean Peninsula is a fact. Rebel conflict claimed more than 14,000 lives is an opinion, so you couldn't validate it. Was there like a range of like between 10 and 18,000 or something like that?
Yeah, who looked that one up? Can you answer that question, please?
I think that was what I don't think anyone looked it up, but we assumed it was kind of like the 100,000 where they weren't, that maybe there might be disagreement of the exact number.
So let's just say unclear, like unclear if fact, opinion. Russia says it has no plans to attack Ukraine. So that's interesting. They do say that there are no plans to attack Ukraine. That didn't come out that I recall in either the right or the left, which I find very like interesting. Valerie Gerasimov denounced reports of an impending invasion as a lie. Who is Valerie?
I didn't even look up who that person was. I assume a spokesman or a diplomat. It really is kind of tied in with the statement above.
So one thing that I like to do with a critical thinking is like ask whether or not there's another explanation. Did anyone look up whether or not why Russia says that they say there's no plan to invade? Well, then why are there 70 to 125,000 troops on the border of the Ukraine?
Yeah, it sounds like it's because there is more of like a threat if they join NATO. They're saying don't do it. So it's really kind of like a power show. But the US says they're going to invade. So other people think they will just because they're saying they're not. Others
Right.
think they will.
But politicians never lie. They've never lied once in the history of the world. Oh wait, sorry, I couldn't help
Maybe
it.
it's to scare them from joining. Now I'm starting to see it. Maybe it's to scare them. It's kind of like, well, if you let them join NATO, look what you'll have to deal with. Maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm just speculating as a like a hypothesis.
And to answer your question, Garrett, no, we didn't take that tack, and that's a good point, right? We just really started in this one chain of thought, which was verifying statements.
Yep, which is fine. That's great. That really was all I asked you to do. But I think this is fun as a group to talk about what's the next level, which is validating stories, which is what once we go through all the statements, I want us to think about like putting together a narrative that ties all the facts from the front, the left, right, and center together to try to create a story that actually makes sense out of all this. And like, what is the real story that's going on, and see if we can discern fact from fiction by tying together all of the perspectives.
Yes, like what is missing in all these articles is the complete story, because this Ukraine and Russia started like 100 years ago, and it was a conflict after that, after World War II and after the USSR collapsed, and in 2012, 10 years ago. So there is no mention of this history of and why.
This is interesting.
The conflict is not
military
it's not
action
something
if
like
NATO
this.
rejects
It has
Russian
roots.
ultimatum.
Sure.
So Putin did actually threaten military action if the Ukraine was let into NATO. It sounds like. Is that right? I'm just skimming here.
Well, that's what the headline says, but what exactly did Putin say?
Politico reported that it says his remarks aired on Russian state TV expressed concerns about the possibility of missiles being deployed in the Ukraine if the former Soviet joins NATO. We have nowhere to retreat. Interesting. Yeah, they don't quote him, right? They just say that he said it. And it would be interesting to get actual quotes from Putin about what he said there.
Well, isn't it hard to quote him because he would be speaking in Russian and not necessarily English?
I mean,
They do quote him. They quote him right there.
Quote him in other areas. Yeah, they do quote him in other areas. They just don't quote him here.
Sure.
They paraphrase him. They say he'll be forced to consider a variety of options, including military response. Oh, here, his demands are contained in a pair of draft treaties Russia submitted to NATO earlier this month.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that, we don't have to look it up now because time is short and it's already 9 o'clock, but let's keep going through the, anything else from the center?
Oh, we're good.
Cool. So let's go to left and then we'll go last on the right. Anybody want to present? I copy and pasted a lot of this, so I guess I can present it. So Putin basically said that Russia has sovereignty over, apparently told Trump that Russia feels it has sovereignty claims over the Ukraine, which we didn't find a good reason to feel was not credible. And then Trump was reportedly reluctant to provide security aid, partly because he wanted the Ukraine to pay the United States back. Now, the Daily Beast explained that Russia invasion of Ukraine would be mostly Trump's fault, clearly an opinion. They tried to use the facts in the article to back that claim. And so we can decide as a group when we get all the facts together whether or not we think that Russia invading the Ukraine would be Trump's fault. Trump told board leaders that Crimea actually belonged to Russia because everyone there speaks Russian. So that's an interesting nugget. And then there was a delay in supplying military equipment to Russia, or I'm sorry, to the Ukraine. Trump withheld military aid to the Ukraine, and the article claims that it was conditioned on the aid of a political favor. That apparently there was testimony under oath that was the case, according to a call with Trump, by, I guess it was 8 people. But then, a lot of, like, we also acknowledge that people from the right might question whether or not that was true, and maybe all those people just had a vendetta against Trump. But then the question I asked was has another explanation been given to why military aid was not given to the Ukraine on time? And none of us were familiar with another explanation being given. So if there's no better explanation for it than the one being levied publicly, I find that the public accusations have at least the most credibility. And remember, in the beginning, we just said, we're going to say what's the most probable truth, because that's, in these cases, this is all very complicated, top secret, lots of, stuff going on, and certain stuff is public and can't be hidden, but lots of stuff can be hidden. But all we can do is make the best decision we can and say what's the most likely to be true. And so, we kind of felt like that was pretty factual because no better explanation was given.
Mm-hmm.
Well, wait a minute, no better explanation, but what was the Trump administration's explanation for it?
So I didn't find one, but if you're aware of one, feel free to Google it and then let's come back to it.
Okay. No, yeah, I don't know. That's why I'm asking. I figured they probably gave some explanation.
I don't
know what that
remember
was.
one, to be honest. I don't remember Trump offering an alternative explanation to why the Ukraine didn't get the funding. The way that it was described in the breakout group was that the Senate wasn't even notified that the Ukraine didn't get the funding. It was kind of a surprise to people that they weren't getting the funding, and no one really knew what was going on. It just was withheld. So I don't think Trump made an effort at coming up with an alternative narrative.
Well, yeah, it's not Trump personally, but
No, but
State
the
Department
Trump
has press
administration.
conferences all the time,
Yeah,
and so reporters
not
should
the
be
man-
asking these questions.
Not the man himself, but the administration.
Yeah.
If you can find an alternative narrative, go ahead and
Okay.
Google for it real quick and see if you can find one. And then, so this was interesting because on the article from Fox News that we read on the right, they blamed Biden for not moving more military in the area of the Ukraine earlier. But then interestingly, Trump, having withheld the security aid, the article on the left said made the Ukraine more susceptible at the time that Trump was president. And so, I would be curious to go back at that time and see what Fox News said about withholding the aid from the Ukraine. Were they critical of Trump, for withholding aid from the Ukraine? My suspicion is probably not. And one of the conclusions that we came to in the breakout group is that and as we get further, we talked about I'll talk about the conclusion in a second. Even when Trump relented and did not provide aid, he made it a condition that the equipment not be used for war. And the political blowback of bloodshed or catastrophe in the Ukraine will no doubt fall on Biden. So the left basically acknowledged if something goes wrong, it's going to be considered Biden's fault, and they acknowledged that and didn't try to plant any seeds of doubt as to whether or not it was Biden's fault. It was just like, this is how it's going to be. And just like the Afghanistan withdrawal, whereas when the whole Ukraine crisis was going on, right, that was not like what I recall from right-wing news about the Ukraine crisis. It was much more of a Trump has done nothing wrong and that type of stuff. But I don't want to get too far off topic, but I think it shows a lot more solidarity in political leaders on the side of right-wing news. And if we go to, is there anything else on the left that I missed? So if we go to the right, you guys did a bunch of stuff after I left, which is great. So we had facts of Biden puts 8,500 troops on heightened alert in Russian as Russian aggression rises. And then there was what Fox News claimed was a general, but turned out someone fact checked and it turned out to be a former general, not a current general, that was giving the opinion that Biden should have sent more troops earlier. And then I was like, well, when earlier? And so I Googled when the troops came to the border, and it was last December. So, it was like a month ago. So that is enough time that had he wanted to send troops earlier, he could have. But then sending more troops to the Ukraine border is a little bit of an arms race, right? And so there's a pro con of making a move like that. And so you can either wait and see if it dies down on its own, or you can choose to escalate. And interesting that Fox was critical and said, don't leave the Ukraine vulnerable. But then under the Trump administration, according to the article on the left, not giving the aid to the Ukraine did make the Ukraine vulnerable. And my guess is that Fox News was not critical of the Trump administration when the Ukraine aid wasn't given promptly to the Ukraine. So, and that's where I was going, that the right-wing news tends to be very solid in line with the president, whereas the left news is quick to criticize and say it's a foregone conclusion that Biden's going to get blamed, rather than saying no one should blame Biden for this. They're saying he's definitely going to get blamed for this if things go south, which is just an interesting reality to acknowledge between right and left news sources when you're reading them, to know that that is the way they present things, at least appears to be.
I think you're talking about partisan sources, ones that have a
Say that again.
connection. Yeah, I think you're talking about partisan sources, ones that have connection with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Because I've listened to a lot of left-wing sources that just think that Biden is just being much too militaristic and that kind of thing, and they're not supportive of him at all.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is that I think it was the Daily Cause was the one on the left. Daily Cause was very quick to say, look, things go south, Biden's gonna bite it, right? He's gonna lose in the polls, and it's a foregone conclusion, and we can't blame anyone for blaming Biden if things go wrong, right? They're not supporting Biden come hell or high water and saying, even though the left-wing source said, Trump is really to blame as part of their article, they also said reality is Biden's going to take the blame even if things go wrong. So there's a certain level of like, yeah, we kind of support Biden, but he's blamable anyway. Like he's not beyond being blamed for this.
Well, okay, but what you're saying from the summary is that Daily Kos is saying that Biden means well, but the real left-wing sources I pay attention to, they're saying that Biden does not mean well, that he knows what he's doing and it's wrong.
Got it.
It
So
just
that's an
seems
even
like preemptive apology for it, conditioning people's minds for the eventuality that he may. They don't say, "Hey, is this a good idea? Should we be going in there?" It's like, this is Trump's fault, and if something goes wrong, then Joe Biden's going to take the fall. So don't blame him, blame Trump.
Well,
That's a way to read it.
maybe, but that's not like, let's pull up the article because that's not how I read it. When I read it in context, it said, while the political blowback of any bloodshed or catastrophe in the Ukraine in the coming weeks will no doubt fall on Biden, taking its approval ratings further, just as the botched withdrawal from Afghanistan did, it is the lingering rot from the Trump administration that created much of the conditions ripe for an attack. So it's kind of like, yeah, Biden's going to take all the blame and there's nothing, like it's kind of Trump's fault, but like we accept that Biden is going to be the one that's going to lose out here. Right? No one.
Yeah, but they're telling people how to think about a negative outcome in the future.
Totally. They're giving an opinion that it's all Trump's fault.
Yeah.
Right. They're blaming it on Trump rather than the 20 years before Trump.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So they're definitely blaming Trump, but they're also and I think maybe it'll be good to go to the right-wing sources and it would be interesting to do another article that was like, while Trump was president, and show how the different sources, because when I remember Trump being president, reading Fox News, like Trump could do no wrong. Like there was never any criticism of Trump or like even acknowledgement that Trump might suffer for anything that, might have gone wrong. It was all Trump is good and Trump is the right, Trump has the right answer and everybody else is definitely wrong. I mean, that was, again, like I'm paraphrasing from recollections from years ago. And if anyone disagrees with that, feel free. I just find that the right-wing news sources tend to be much more in line with leadership, whereas left-wing news sources are not. And someone was saying that like a lot of people will disagree that Biden even has good intentions on the left wing, which sort of supports that assertion.
But not noticed is that both sides are always up for a nice war.
Right. Yeah, no, that's a great point.
Right?
Yeah.
They frame it as them arguing over it, but
Right.
neither of them would ever say, no, we don't need to go to war. Never
And
would anyone say that.
when I was the most concerned about that was Iraq, because it was left, right, everybody voted, except for like a very small handful of senators and congressmen, almost everybody voted to go to war in Iraq. And I don't know about anyone else, but my take on that was I actually looked at the PowerPoint presentation that Colin Powell delivered, and I looked at the proof of weapons of mass destruction that was presented to the US population. And then what I did for comparison purposes is I went into the proof of nuclear weapons in Cuba in the Bay of Pigs, because that was the last time that I could recall that there was like weapons of mass destructions that were identified. And what I found is the pictures from the Bay of Pigs were far more accurate than the pictures in Iraq. And I'm like, you can't tell me that in like, what was it, 40 years later, we don't have better pictures of weapons of mass destruction in Iraq than we did during Cuba in the Bay of Pigs. So, like it didn't make sense to me. And I was very against the war in Iraq because of that analysis of just trying to like look at objectively what evidence do we have that, because a lot of our allies were against the war in Iraq. So, I think it's important to like look at the actual evidence presented and what are verifiable facts and what are they pointing to, rather than the opinions, which is why we're doing this whole exercise. So let's just go quickly through more
We
reinforcement.
didn't we didn't really find we didn't do a whole bunch of fact checking, but I mean I found one article on the NATO website, the NATO official website,
Mhm.
and all it was just a bunch of claims with not even, like, they were all vague, ambiguous. There was not even an attempt to cite which officials, like specific names or links to official. Like, it's just shocking that the way these world powers that are throwing these weapons around, the way they communicate to the public who they are doing this on behalf of, so they claim.
Right.
They don't. They tell all these stories, but there's no. You know, when France is sending those things over there, like, are they really? This is rumors, right? It's all.
Right.
It's posturing. It's. I mean, you might say it's geopolitics, and this is how it has to be. It's ridiculous. It's like a bunch of bad teenage boys.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Well, sometimes
Right.
I feel like that's who's in charge, is a bunch of teenage
And
boys.
no one realizes it. No one even thinks to question the fundamental underlying this is, what are we even doing here in the first place? Right? No one asks any of these questions. Right?
When you
Never
say, what are we
mind
doing
these
here in the
stupid
first place, what do you
details.
mean?
Hmm?
When you say, what are we doing here in the first place, what do you mean?
What the hell's going on over in Europe in the first place? Why are these countries still at war?
Right.
Right?
Right.
Everyone falls for these gossipy details of the latest dust up, but what's even going on in the first place? You know, like, if you go listen to Dan Carlin Hardcore History, or and he goes and he explains it because he knows what the fuck's going on, and you compare that to what these experts and officials say on TV, it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's obviously a joke what they're telling us on TV, right? It's theater.
Yeah.
So what are you supposed to do? What's the point of fact checking these stories? Because these stories are cover.
Yeah. No, I think that's a great point. Then, you know, we only have a small number of people left. A bunch of people had to go because we are like at 9:20. So I'm just curious if anyone has final thoughts that they wanted to share. Was this helpful to you guys? Did you enjoy going through this? Like, we didn't quite get to like do what I really wanted to do, which is like, and if anyone wants to take a crack at it, you know, I tried to take a few steps towards like trying to weave together the actual truth, which I think, you know, my experience is that right, left, and center, none of them get a really accurate view of the truth. I think only by looking at facts from the left, right, and center can you really see the actual truth. And even then, sometimes you can't see it, which we talked about. This is a highly political situation you were alluding to. And so it's, you know, we can't always expect that we're going to get the actual truth, but I think we get closer to it by looking at right, left, and center news and seeing what facts each one of them brings forth.
I think it would be interesting to try and get additional dimensions on this instead of like the political dimension, but also like historical dimension and
Yes.
a foreign dimension, so that you have like internal US politics. And I'm not sure if just picking different articles is necessarily like, or using the chart. I think it's a good way of starting and stabbing in the dark if you're not on a certain side of things. But if you have a trusted news source that you like in a certain area and that's where you are, it might be useful to let people suggest which side they think has the best opinion, and then work from there, from the different perspectives that we have. We would just be more invested, I guess, and whatever. And then getting a foreign perspective kind of corrects for whatever the media bias is in the United States, because there's obviously some nationalism involved. And then historic perspective helps to correct for our current myopia for current times, to a certain degree. And I mean, I actually watched a YouTube video from 7 years ago today, which essentially forecasted what's happening now. And that was pretty impressive to me. I'd be happy to share it if I can find it quickly, but I think it's a great methodology for, working through some of the BS that's out there, but like anything, it could be slightly improved, and implementing the improvements, of course, would take more effort and time, but I think it would be worthwhile.
Yeah, I do have plans for that. I have to make money at my food tech startup before I can start investing in something like that. But I have plans to take this to a whole new level someday, but one step at a time. But yeah, I think the discerning what the truth is a really difficult thing. I think that what we did today helps do it better. And I think your suggestion of like getting different countries' perspectives is a good one to like add another, other perspectives, and even different countries' perspectives. Some that are allies with Russia would be a good perspective to look at your countries allied with Russia and see their perspectives.
Right. I think that, yeah, if you can look at both sides of the issue, not just in the politics of the United States, but maybe, I don't know, look at some RT articles on the issue and see the other side of the conflict's perspective.
Right. Yeah, RT being Russian government run itself. Yeah, I have a similar suggestion, which is depending on what the issue is. So let's say you want to learn about some topic, like what is really going on in this place, or what's really going on with this situation. Well, depending on the topic, they're going to, I mean, when given the topic, you can think of different sources. You're going to think, okay, so this source is probably going to be like, on this side of the issue, and this other source is going to be more likely to be on this side of the issue. And I mean, you can probably come up with some guesses about who's going to be on what side, and before you start looking for sources, because there are different issues that there are different sides. Like Fox News is, that's the right-wing source, but as I pointed out, that Tucker Carlson is giving pro-Russian rhetoric, but the Republicans of Congress, the right-wing members of Congress, they're more anti-Russian than the president is. So so there are different perspectives depending on the issue.
Agreed.
Yeah, but like Daily Kos, I think Daily Kos says explicitly that their purpose is to help get Democrats elected.
Right.
So it's a partisan outlet more than it is an ideological outlet.
Which is interesting if that's the case, because they were very much not like saying Biden's going to take the fall if things go wrong, and that's a foregone conclusion. We shouldn't challenge it. It's not really doing a good job getting them. I don't know, like they suck at their job if that's their job. Like,
well, it depends upon.
I wouldn't quite read it that way. That they're just predicting what they think is going to happen, and
but if
we are Democrats, so we got to think about that. This is going to happen. How we're going to deal with the fallout.
Yeah, but if you really want to get Democrats elected, you should say, theoretically, like no one should blame Biden, and if people have to be crazy to blame Biden. That's what the right does. If someone like, if the same thing happened and the tides were turned and the president was Trump, like it would be like, oh, if something goes wrong, it was all Obama's fault, right? Like anything that went wrong under Trump was Obama's fault.
Right. I mean, I get both your opinions, and to do some synthesis synergy of the two. It's kind of like potentially that news outlet is not necessarily pro Biden, but is pro other factions of the Democratic Party, and therefore Biden's the fall guy, and they don't necessarily want him to be reelected. And a large part in the Democratic Party is not very supportive of Biden running again in 2024. They see the writing on the wall that he's not likely to run again, and therefore, if they scapegoat him, it's kind of like kind of hurts him, but also it's an explainer way to kind of deflect the blame.
For that. We want Democrats to be elected, but not necessarily the Democrat that's the president right now. So
right.
Yeah, that's interesting. So they might have been more Obama right or wrong than Biden right or wrong.
Right.
Right. I think that that's the case. It really depends upon the poll numbers, and then also like if you look, there's been polls out there on of the general public, or I don't know, yeah, I guess the general public of Trump and Biden, whether or not people want them to run for re-election in 2024, and it's surprising for both of them. They have a 70% disapproval and like 25% approval for running again. But who knows? Polls can be really inaccurate, but I tend to think that that's generally accurate for Biden, at least now. I'm not sure about Trump. It's a little bit, he's a bit out of
Hillary
the
would win by a landslide, and I guess she did by like a Democratic majority nationally, but she didn't win the election, right? So polls are definitely sometimes wrong, and but like,
oh yeah,
yeah, but I think this has been really fun, and I hope that other people have enjoyed it and gotten value of it as well. Like I definitely learned from it, and I appreciate all of your contributions towards that learning. And so I just want to thank you all for coming and participating and making this an active workshop, and for being the few, the proud, those that hung to the very end. So thank you all for that. I hope you'll come next week. We're going to be, shoot, what's next week? Next week, we're going to be talking about, the science and practice of meditation with Dr. Mehta. So we'll probably send a survey out about this event. I'm going to try to start sending surveys out to those that register with an email address to the Zoom event. So we'll try to send a survey out in the next few days, and we would love your feedback so we can keep improving things, so you guys enjoy the events as much as possible.
sounds good.
Thanks a lot.
And the next one is going to be more of a lecture. You're saying?
Next one will be more of a lecture. Yeah, most of them are lecture discussion, sometimes with small breakout groups, but occasionally, like today, we do a workshop. It's much harder to do a workshop, but it's, I think, fun. So I tend to be the only one that does workshops, but that's, yeah, that's just me.
I mean, I kind of like the interaction and working together.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. That's what, I think it's more engaging when everybody can participate. So, and that's why I either do a lecture or small breakout groups almost always.
All right.
Cool.
Well, thank you very much, Garrett, and have a good night.
Thanks.
I'll look forward to doing another workshop sometime in the future, and trying to put to practice what you've tried to put together for us here tonight.
Great. Thanks so much, Sean. I appreciate it. Hope everybody has a great rest of their night.
Thanks,
Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.